we're going to see a massive increase in multi-family homes where kids are moving back home or older parents are moving in with their kids. It's going to be rampant over the next 3.5 years with the way this economy is going to get destroyed, the way the housing market is going to get destroyed, the way that medical bills are going to cripple people in financial bankruptcy, the way student loans and education is going to be unobtainable to pay for people. I mean, it's already been happening over the last several years. It's going to rapidly increase. And my wife and I are fully prepared for that to happen to our kids as they are going out and trying to even find work. Any kind of work in this country is nearly impossible for young people because most of these places are hiring older people who also need to work now because they can't retire. They can't live on their Social Security. They can't live on their pensions. And they would much prefer to hire an old person who they believe will be more, stable or predictable or whatever. It's a fucking nightmare. We are supposed to live and die and work and be productive. And that's it. That's all the power structures in this country want. If you don't know how to work and produce for them at the cost of your livelihood and survival, then you aren't worth anything to them. You deserve nothing. You should get nothing. You should just fucking die. And if you aren't happy with getting whatever it is that they minimally can pay you without it being illegal, they're going to do. And if you don't accept it, then you should also just fucking die. That is the entirety of the right wing. I don't even know if you can call them Republicans anymore because they're not really any traditional Republican. They're Trumpists. Do what I want, take what I'll give you, or fucking die.
So as it turns out, the student loans that I've been paying $1,500 a month for 2 years have a 17% interest rate. So what I thought I've been paying off for all this time, I'm actually, I owe more than what I started off with. What the fuck? So, Jeff Bezos, this would be a really cool fucking time to Venmo me, bro. I owe $90,000, and I didn't even spend that much on school. Any rich person, please tap in. Kourtney Kardashian, you probably have 8 houses. I'm never gonna be able to buy one because I went to college. I just signed up to be an egg donor. Guess what? Got approved. Who wants my fucking kids? I can't afford them, so start a bidding more. Just fucking take them. What do you want? My left arm too? What the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm gonna be in debt for my whole fucking life. How does that even make sense? I signed up for this shit when I was 17. This should not be legal, bro. I got upset about it at work, and my coworker was like, don't you have a rich relative who can pay that for you? No, my family's poor. No. And the worst fucking part is, bro, look where I am. I can't go in because I can't spend money, but I just want to be here because it makes me feel better.
Today's news for the unemployed. Nursing homes will be removing Medicaid residents within the next 20 to 30 days. Meaning, if anybody's in a nursing home and they are receiving Medicaid benefits to stay in that nursing home, they are going to have to leave. Their family is going to have to come and pick them up and remove them from the nursing home if they are receiving Medicaid. Child, I don't know how this is going to work because we all know the majority of those that are on Medicaid in nursing homes are this, and the majority that are taking care of them are this. So if the families already put them in nursing homes because they can't take care of them, how are y'all going to go about it now that you have to remove them?
So in today's news of As the White Hood Turns, economists are now predicting that we have hit a recession. We knew it was coming, but apparently it is here. So they are reporting that there has been a complete slowdown in the jobs market. Manufacturing is not making the comeback that he told MAGA that it would make. We all heard about him firing the director of the BLS, because she reported accurate jobs numbers. He didn't like them, so he fired her. And basically, the economy is tanking daily. But what makes me giggle a little bit, because we're all feeling it, so I'm not laughing at them necessarily, but this article is referring to it as the redneck recession. Because the people who are going to be hit the hardest with this is basically his entire MAGA base. I'm not talking about the millionaire and billionaire class of this. They only make up about 1% of the MAGA base, right? The remainder of it is working class, what is referred to as lower middle class, rural voters. They're the ones who are suffering the most. But the problem is, it's not like nobody told them that this was coming. And yet they still chose to believe the con man in chief. He's over here robbing Peter and ain't giving a fuck about Paul. All that money he's making on his side deals, his crypto deals, and all of that. The only thing that is actually doing well right now is AI. And if you own stocks in any companies that are tied to anything to do with artificial intelligence, yeah, you're going to see some money in your portfolio. You're going to see some really good long-term gains. But them people out there ain't got that. And they just announced that they're going to cut out a whole bunch of food that people can purchase on their EBT cards. Nothing. You're not going to be able to buy chips. You're not going to be able to buy any of those little cartons of fruity drinks and anything like Kool-Aid. None of that. Nothing with refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup. All of those things are no longer going to be able to be purchased. So those people who are getting quite a bit of money on their EBT cards, once they have to reapply, they're about to find out that the only thing you're going to be able to afford on that is some cabbage, maybe a couple of tomatoes, and a bunch of ground beef. Okay, goodbye.
I'm sorry, I just hallucinated.
This is ridiculous. The meat wasn't this price last month. What's going on?
Like super expensive now. There's no way. Look at $60. They weren't that a month ago. That's crazy. Shit. Right.
All of the culture war propaganda, it's bait. It's all fake. You know, I'm watching videos by Daniel Schmidt and John Doyle. I'm watching videos by young white guys who think that our country is being run by black bureaucrats. Young white radicals who have been screwed out of a future. Their future has been mortgaged. This is a country financed by debt. No one is deflating this global debt bubble. We are all going to pay the cost. And they have been tricked by billionaires into taking out their anger at black people. But they are not the planners and the managers of our society. And yet, young white radicals, all of their righteous indignation and anger is being channeled and directed at Democrats. It's being directed at bureaucrats in the federal government. Everything is being channeled as an attack against DEI, as an attack against some such policy like that. Don't look at the billionaires that are funding this. Don't look too closely at Musk and Thiel and Andreessen and Adelson. Don't look at those people. It's the black and brown bodies in the Department of Education. They're the problem. What?
I'm so fucking sick and tired of hearing this bullshit. We can't have free health care. We cannot have good Medicaid. We cannot have good nothing. But we can have a ballroom at the fucking White House to inflate somebody's fucking ego. Right? Israel can have free fucking health care. They can have all sorts of weapons of mass destruction, and we can't have free health care. We can't have cheap fucking schooling. This is taxation without representation, guys. Like, when the fuck do you guys stop caring about being true patriots? We fought a war over a tax on tea leaves. Tea! And now, you're okay with giving all your money to foreign governments so that they can have the health care they need, so they can defend their borders. But you can't defend your own livelihood. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You can't have life without health care. And there is no pursuit of happiness when you're all slaves working for corporations that give two fucking shits about you. Nobody fucking cares. But guess what? You're just gonna get up tomorrow and act like nothing happened. When the fuck are we gonna wake up? When? Why? Why are we so docile? Is it in the food? Is it on the TV? Is it in the music? What the fuck is wrong with us? When we can have little monkeys in suits telling us you can't have free health care. We have paid 5,000 times over the amount that the United States would use for free health care. And instead of us uniting, we listen to our favorite fucking puppet on the fucking TV, and we divide ourselves even further and do not a fucking thing about it. And I'm so sick and fucking tired of it. And if you don't like it, you can leave. I've thought about it. I've thought about going to a country that actually gives a fucking shit about my labors, about my mental well-being, and about my health, because I'm a human. But you know what? They've made it so fucking hard to leave because they keep you pushed down and dulled down so financially, and fuck you! I'm so tired of it. And you should be too. I don't give a fuck if you're red, white, blue, fucking brown, orange, purple, fuck it all. You should be uniting and doing the right thing for your country. We fought a war. We kicked the shit out of the Brits and told them, get the fuck out of here. We're not paying your tea leaves. But now, we got to pay taxes and taxes upon taxes. And we had Social Security tax, but now you got to get taxed on Social Security tax. And tax upon tax upon tax. Death and taxes, those are only two things promised in this world. But you know what I want? I want the promise of true freedom. I want the promise of true health care. I want the promise of a free life. I want the promise of freedom. And if you stand in my fucking way, I'm going to put you in my fucking ground.
We're all being fucked here. You understand that, right? Like, you've got to let go of your left versus right, red versus blue. You've got to let go of that. It is top versus bottom, and they're fucking us in the ass, and they always have been, okay? While they convince us to fight each other because they pretend to fight each other on screen, at the end of the day, they're going to the same dark, smoky room, sipping brandy and laughing their asses off at us, okay? Look, we've all been convinced that, you know, it's not important to pair bond and have a family and do the important things in life, because those truly are the important things. That's enjoying your home and the people you care about. You've been told that that makes you fucking lazy and you're not a good fucking contributing member of society. You're a fucking worker bee. is what you are. And they can't allow you off that fucking hamster wheel. And that used to be just the case for like vacations and things like that. That's why it's so fucking expensive to fly a round trip anywhere else in the world. Hell, anywhere else in the country. But you got fucking baristas from Australia and Germany coming and spending a fucking month here because it's so cheap for them. That's the fucking point. They want it to be a pain in the fucking ass for you to go anywhere or do anything that takes you too far away from your fucking hamster wheel. And look, they've got half of us convinced that you're fucking lazy and entitled because you feel like people should have the right to fucking food and shelter and education and the right to go to the fucking hospital if you get injured or get sick. Those aren't privileges. Those are things as a society that we should want to contribute to. Well, not with my tax dollars. What the fuck do you mean? What do you want that money to go to? Do you want that money to go to fucking Israel? To fucking Ukraine? Is that where you want it to go? To go fucking blow up children in some other country that you can't even find on the fucking map, but God forbid somebody gets to go to the fucking hospital when they break their leg? What the fuck are we doing here? And I know that feels like an attack on the right. You're not getting away from this either, left. I mean, God, y'all have so bought in to the fucking obvious fucking Project Mockingbird propaganda where the media just wants you spun the fuck up and upset about everything. Everything's fucking racist. Everybody's a fucking Nazi. Look, if everything is racist, then nothing is racist. If everyone's a Nazi, then no one's a fucking Nazi. We have got to let go of these narratives that we've been spoon-fed, and we just digest and move along and regurgitate over everyone that we come in contact with. And the reason you do it, look, I know you feel smart because you're saying the right words, and some of them are big. You're not. You don't have a fucking honest, original thought in your fucking head if I can predict the next 5 things coming out of your mouth, because I also watch a balance of CNN and Fox News so I can understand the fucking enemy. And the enemy is the people that are deliberately fucking cratering the middle class in this fucking country. Do you not understand? And look, I understand the narrative going around now. They're like, well, AI and these fucking automation and robots and stuff, they'll never take all our jobs, because if nobody has jobs, they won't have any money to buy their products and services, and then those companies will go under. We're past that. We've crossed that fucking Rubicon. They don't care. What they're doing is everything they fucking can to milk the last bit out of you to train their fucking AI and their fucking bots for the automation. Because once none of us have jobs or fucking money and we're all fucking starving and homeless and dying off, they don't fucking need us anymore. Because in the time it took us to train our replacements, they're not replacing us at our jobs. They're replacing us to do all of the shit for the people that are left, that had the means to leech every amount of fucking value, every tangible fucking cool asset you could own, whether it be yachts or mansions or fucking gold trinkets or fucking movie theaters in your fucking basement or a bowling alley in your fucking attic, which sounds crazy, but they're rich enough to fucking do it. They're doing all of this on purpose, so when none of us are fucking left, they don't fucking care anymore, because their lives are already awesome. And they don't need me or you to fucking write the TPS reports or have the meeting about the meeting. They don't need fucking people that may or may not have come here legally or not, just because they were struggling to find a better way to live. I wish they'd have come here the right way, but they didn't. And a lot of times they're doing shit we don't want to do. Kind of like cleaning those rich people's toilets or tending their fucking vast lawns and fucking ranches and shit like that. I know that sounds fucked up. Stay with me. Fucking, they don't need those people anymore either, because there will be bots run by fucking AI that can handle the fucking shrubbery, that can clean the fucking toilet. There's no longer meetings about meetings, because there's no menial fucking jobs anymore. It's all been done. We're reaching the fucking end game. Wake the fuck up.
Trump derangement syndrome isn't real. But do you know what is? Income inequality. Let's talk about it. And all of the data I'm going to share is linked in my bio. It's from the census. Peruse at your leisure. Let's start by looking at all of the income earned in the United States. 100% of the income brought home in the US. In 1975, the bottom 90% of Americans brought home 66% of that income. That share has fallen to 45% over the past 50 years or so. The bottom 90% of people in the US are bringing home a much smaller slice of that income pie. For context, take a look at the slice of the income pie that the bottom 90% are bringing home in France, Canada, Italy, and Norway. Since 1980, the top 1% of Americans have seen their incomes increase over 326%, while the middle 60% of Americans have only seen their incomes go up 73%. All of this presented in 2022 dollars. A new car in 1972 cost 26 grand, a house was around 189,000, and a 4-year degree from a public college was 10 grand. Over 50 years, the prices of those three things have doubled, some of them more than doubled, but incomes have not doubled. A huge reason for this disparity in income growth is because of tax policies that disproportionately benefit corporations and the wealthy. Looking at a recent example, the 2017 tax cuts, when President Trump said that all Americans were going to see their household incomes go up substantially, for most people in this country, that did not happen. But the wealthiest people in the US did see their incomes rise. That's because the savings from the corporate tax cuts in 2017 were used to give executives massive raises. Those savings were not used to give workers massive raises because trickle-down economics doesn't work. Nothing ever trickles down. The anger and frustration that many people in the United States are feeling over this financial strain is being exploited by Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And because so many of y'all are irrationally obsessed with Donald Trump as a person, you ignore all of this data and you believe the lie that immigrants are the problem. Immigrants are to blame for the financial woes in the United States. You are focusing on a short-term politician, short-term politics. What we are talking about here are the long-term policy implications over many, many years. Stop blaming immigrants for your financial frustration and turn that frustration to the wealthiest people in this country and the politicians who prioritize them over you.
Okay, just found out this afternoon that the nursing home that my dad is in is ending their Medicaid contracts. And he has until September 15th to figure out what to do. And so I've just been down the rabbit hole to try to figure out why would a nursing home end their Medicaid contract.
Well, let me save you the trouble. It's called the Big Beautiful Bill. You know, Project 25, that you all said it didn't exist. Well, it did. So this is a severe case of FAFO. Yes, the nursing home is severely filled with over 80% of the patients on Medicaid. And when the budget cuts happen, they have no other choice but to release the patients that are on Medicaid because they cannot afford to pay their bills. So move those little kiddos, combine them in one room, because you have to make room for Mima and Papa because they're coming home to you.
We're starting to hear from people who are on Medicaid who are losing access to certain services, be it long-term care, nursing homes, outpatient services, things like that are getting cut. And the GOP has consistently said that people will not be kicked off Medicaid. And that may be true. A lot of people won't be. It doesn't seem as though any Republican voters feel like they will not qualify with the work requirement. But just because you're not losing your Medicaid doesn't mean that you're not going to lose your access to health care. $900 billion has been cut. And states have to make up that difference. There's a lot of different ways they can make up that difference. Kicking people off is one of those ways. Another way is to cut certain services that Medicaid pays for. I live in Alabama, a state that has refused to expand Medicaid, so we were already at a disadvantage, and now we're going to get cut even more. Trust me when I say that Alabama cannot make up that difference. I'm going to read to you the email that I sent one of my state senators, Katie Britt, not Tommy Tuberville. Katie Britt's been pretty reasonable on some of these issues, so I thought maybe she would listen. I thought I might get an actual response. That wasn't the case. I posted this on Facebook before the bill passed. I consider myself an independent voter, but I was raised in an extremely conservative community, and the Republican Party has been very good to my family. My brother was a congressional page for Spencer Backus. Congressman Backus wrote my brother's recommendation letter for the Merchant Marine Academy. I've been a CRNA in Alabama for 18 years. The Medicaid cuts that are being proposed are going to wreck our hospitals. Alabama cannot afford to bridge an even larger gap than we already have, not even close. Roughly 1 in 4 Alabamians rely on Medicaid, and nearly 1 in 10 have no health insurance at all. That's already one of the highest uninsured rates in the country. Without Medicaid support, like outpatient services, even more patients will be left with nowhere to go but the emergency room. EMTALA is a federal law that requires us to provide emergency services to all human beings, regardless of where they came from or their ability to pay for it. Our oath as providers and our state's aggressive commitment to Christian values require the same. We do not and cannot turn away life-threatening emergencies or laboring patients. The proposed cuts will force us to provide even more of that care for free. Our hospitals cannot absorb that level of uncompensated care without collapsing. Poor Medicaid reimbursement rates combined with cuts to essential outpatient services and a potential loss of coverage for thousands will devastate Alabama's rural healthcare infrastructure. Many rural hospitals are already on the brink. Additional pressure from unfunded mandates will push them over the edge, and once they close, they rarely reopen. Your constituents need you to push back on this. If rural hospitals close, it won't just affect Medicaid patients. It will affect all of us. Most of your voters do not live near a major hospital. This will affect a massive portion of your base. We don't have much time. I look forward to a reply. Thank you. Here's her reply. You can pause to read it. You may have to screenshot it and zoom in if you have eyes like me. But it basically has nothing to do with anything that I said. She talks about Trump's tax cuts. Why would you talk about that? You're cutting health care to fund that. So no, thank you. And then she talks about the border. Like, we're not a border state, what the hell? And then more nonsense. I think this is just a auto reply for any question or concern that comes into her email. I hope I'm wrong, Katie Britt. I honestly hope I'm wrong. Time will tell.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm still not selling anything, so hang out for a few minutes. Today is a little serious for me. You can officially say that you know or you have seen someone who no longer has health insurance. My Medicaid was cut off after 15 years of being on Medicaid. I no longer qualify, according to the administration. I require for my life medications. I take 23 pills a day. From about a dozen medications. My total bill, if I were to buy them myself, which I can't afford to do, but it's $1,168 a month for my medications. I am not going to be able to afford that. I just afforded what I could. I got 7 medications out of 12. I can't buy the other ones. Some of them are just way out of touch. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no one to reapply to. There's no one to complain to. There's really, I'm shit out of luck, basically. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it happened, okay? So if you're thinking that it can't happen to you, I'm just a guy, all right? I'm just a guy who doesn't have insurance anymore. To get insurance, from what I understand, for me to get insurance will cost me just about what I would pay for my medications. I can't get a discount on my medications because I don't qualify, because I'm in an income bracket that doesn't qualify me to get a discount. I'm not sure how that works, but I'm retired. I have a retirement check, and that's it. And I don't have millions of dollars in stocks and bonds, and I don't have investment properties and this and that. I have my retirement, and I have what little savings I have, and that's it. I have a car. I rent an apartment. So I'm gonna think I'm probably like a lot of other people out there. I'm normal, I guess. I'm just like you, I guess. If you have it better, congratulations. I'm happy for you. Trust me, I am. If you have it worse, I'm sorry that you do. If you're the same as me, we're in this shit together. Right now, I'm not trying to be gloom and doom, but I don't see any way out of this. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So if there is, great. I want to know about it. But from my angle, I can either take my medications and not eat, or I can take what I can afford of my medications and hopefully not die. Those are kind of my choices right now, because there are no companies coming to my rescue to say, oh, we can cut your drug prices by 1,500%. We don't have those on this planet, okay? This is the real world we're talking about. This is not some made-up reality by someone who has never had to buy a thing in his life, okay? From someone who has never had to work a day in his life. I've been working since I was 11, and I retired last year at the age of 62 because I couldn't physically do it anymore. So I earned my retirement. That's all I have left. If that gets taken away, then it's time for, one in the temple, and that's the end. So what else can you do? I can't go work again. I guess maybe I could. Maybe I could. So lemonade. Who knows? I'm saying this only because this is how it all goes. 2 days ago, I wouldn't have thought that I was going to lose Medicaid. My insurance, I can't go to the doctors now. I can't go to the dentist. I couldn't go to the dentist anyways. They never pay for shit. But you can't get glasses. You can't get medications. Without medications, a lot of us won't make it. I take medications for psychiatric issues, but I also take an enormous amount of medications to keep me alive, whether it's thyroid, I've had traumatic pancreatitis, I've had other issues in my body, which if they're not maintained, will kill me, basically. I'm not saying that that's going to happen tomorrow, but the reason doctors give you medications is to stop things that are wrong or to maintain things. And I have been maintaining for 15 years, taking my medications exactly when they're supposed to be taken in the morning and at night, and being very, very, very good at making sure that I do what I'm supposed to do, because I want to live. I think this is a pretty cool way to go about life. So I don't think that I am going to freak out. I'm just going to have to learn how to live without certain things. I did a post recently on the cost of groceries. If you're getting them cheap, fan-fucking-tastic. I'm so happy for you. Whatever planet you're living on, please give them my regards. In my world and on my planet, my fucking groceries are through the roof. Okay? They're costing me more than double what they did 6 months ago. More than double. Not just a little here and a little there. They're fucking more than double. I know this because I actually pay for them out of my own pocket with green foldable money. I don't have credit cards. I don't put it on somebody else's card. I don't have EBT. I don't have SNAP. I don't have any of that shit which would help me pay for my groceries. I buy them with cash. That's it. So now, you want to know how I know that mine are doubled? It's because in December, they cost me $50 a week. And I just went grocery shopping the other day and they were $116. I haven't changed my eating habits. They're exactly the same as they always have been. I'm a creature of habit. Bought the same shit that I bought in December. I bought it $116. Did they get a new grocery store? Did they just charge me more because I'm a Democrat? Or what is it? So for all of you who think that this is all some game and it's wonderful and cheerful and life is great, and this disease is doing us any favors by making our lives so chaotic and making us so crazy that we're going to just come out of this smelling like a rose. It's not going to work. The only person that will come out of this with anything will be the disease. Hopefully he'll come out of it in a coffin. But if he doesn't die, I want him just to take his money and go away. Just go away. We should have a GoFundMe and give all of our money to him to go away. If he would sign an agreement, I bet we could raise some billions of dollars to make him go away. That would be wonderful. He has enriched himself so much that we can't even fathom it. I'm not jealous because I'm not a criminal. I'm not a loser like that. But it makes me wonder, what is it about this one person that makes it perfectly acceptable for him to be a felon, a rapist, a pedophile, a fraud, a cheater, a liar? All of these things he is, and we know he is. Why do we allow it to happen? Why do we continue to let this disease affect us? Why does it keep going on? And how in hell does the Supreme Court of the United States bend its will to let him do whatever he wants to do? And everybody bends just to let him do it all. I saw him on the roof of the White House, and I was thinking, oh, thank God, he's gonna jump, he's gonna jump right off into the fucking new paved over rose garden. But he didn't. You know, it's only 2 or 3 stories anyway, so he probably would have just broke a hip or something, and then we'd end up having to fucking pay for him, you know, for the rest of his life, which we are going to be anyways. We will be paying his debts for the next 5 generations. Sorry to say, the trillions of dollars that he's put us fucked up in debt will be for the next 5 generations. They will be paying for it. That is his only thing that he's done for anybody, is he's fucked the next 5 generations. So find some peace, everybody. I love you all, and I'll see you again later.
So Trump just reversed the rule that our medical bills will go back on our credit report. Just as people are losing their Medicaid and Medicare. You know what this means, don't you? If you can't afford your medical bills due to high copays, high deductibles, no insurance, your credit report is fucked. And when you start getting healthy again, and you got a job, they can come garnish your damn wages. You know, I wouldn't have voted Democrat for shit in this election. But there was one thing that Biden did that I agreed with. And that was making that rule that those medical bills wouldn't be on your credit report. But now that they've made these changes, they can come after your life savings.
We're in a recession. Last week showed this. You could see last week. I'll explain what I mean, but we're in a recession. You can choose to listen to this video or not. I really don't care. But what we got last week was 2 important things. And we've been talking about a recession since fall of last year, saying it's likely going to happen this year. That was because of the inverted yield curve, right? We knew that was very, very strong at predicting recessions, and this was the largest, longest inverted yield curve we've ever had. But that's not what we got last week. What we got last week was major revisions that we've only seen 3 times in the past 50 years, including last week, on the job market, okay? And that right there alone is a terrible sign. That is not the sign of a strong economy. But the other part we got was the GDP. Everyone keeps on saying, well, it was 3% GDP. Well, here's the truth. The previous GDP was negative. What's the definition of a recession? It's 2 consecutive negative GDPs, right? Well, this 3% GDP, if you remove tariffs out of there and you look at the private sector, you're negative. You're like negative 0.15%. So yes, there's some new things that we've never had happening before, like income from tariffs coming inside there. However, we essentially, if you break it down, just like we had the revisions on the jobs data that shows it's the worst in 50 years, you also have essentially a negative GDP. Add that to the fact we had the largest, longest inverted yield curve in the history of our country, rolling for the past couple years, uninverting recently. We're on the verge of a major recession. And I'm not changing. Nothing's changing about that. You can feel it. Businesses can feel it right now. Many people can feel it right now. And I do believe it's here. If you guys want me to make a video on how a recession plays out, I can do that for you. I'm happy to. Just let me know down in the comments. But I just want to let you know, listen or not, it's up to you. But with the recession, it's here.
It sounds like we're in a recession. What does that mean for your life? What things can you expect to see while going through an actual real U.S. recession. I'll give you the 5 things, and before I give you number 1, most people define a recession by 2 consecutive negative quarters of GDP. And while that is true, that's not really the part that you're going to be feeling. It's an outlier that shows what's going on. So number 1, you're going to see the labor market change, which we've already seen that, right? You're going to see unemployment rise. It's going to be really hard for people to find new jobs, and it's not the time to be going and upgrading your current job. You're going to want to keep the one you got. You're going to know a lot of people that are unemployed that live right beside you. Number 2, tightening credit. All right, so yes, we've had interest rates high over the past couple years, right? That doesn't mean we've had a tight credit cycle. So lenders stop lending. Doesn't matter what interest rates are. Lenders stop lending. Number 3 is bankruptcies, okay? Now, last December, in December 2014, we had the most corporate bankruptcies we had since all the way back in 2011. So we've actually seen bankruptcies on the rise, but I'm talking more so of private, personal bankruptcies. So I do think we'll see bankruptcies on a rise. That has happened in nearly every recession we've ever had. Number 4, a lot of you are going to like this one, rate cuts. You can't find a recession in the United States where the Fed did not cut right into the recession. So unless you're looking before we invented the Fed. So you're going to see rates cut. Everyone that thinks rates get cut, assets go up, you need to go look at history of what happens when the Fed does large cuts. It usually results in a market crash and a recession. Number 5, rules. There comes new rules every time. This doesn't much so affect you during the recession, but after the recession. The government is always going to say that something broke or someone did something wrong, and they're going to create new rules, just like they did in 2008 with how you obtain a mortgage. The truth is, guys, as long as we have the Fed, as long as our nation runs off of inflation, which it has to right now, and low interest rates, you're going to see recessions. We're always going to have crashes. We're always going to have bear markets, bull markets. You're always going to have recessions. It is part of the cycles. All right. So I think we're already in one. A lot of data shows that. If you would have looked at back at 2008, they didn't admit that we were in a recession until 6 months after the recession started. And that's how it works almost every time.
Look, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. People don't see everything out there. And I just want to call something out. If you're still a little confused about why people say Donald Trump doesn't understand economics or public policy, please, please, please watch this video I'm about to show where Jeffrey Sachs, who is an American economics and public policy analyst and a professor at Columbia University, explains very clearly why he has no idea what he's doing. Watch.
If you take your credit card and you go shopping and you run up a large credit card debt, you're running a trade deficit with all those shops. Now, it would be pretty strange if you then blamed all the shop owners for having sold you all those things. You're ripping me off, you're ripping me off, you're ripping me off, I'm running a trade deficit. That is the level of understanding of the President of the United States. The trade deficit does not represent at all trade policies. It represents spending relative to production or earnings. We call that an identity. I teach it in the second day of my course in international monetary economics. Trump never made it to the second day. So he says, you're running a trade deficit. Look, they're all cheating me. But all that's happening is the United States is outspending its national income. And you can look at the national income chart. You can add up consumption and investment and government spending, and you could subtract off gross national product, and lo and behold, what will that equal? Not approximately, exactly. That will equal the current account deficit, which is the comprehensive measure of how much you spend on goods and services versus how much you sell in goods and services. So the United States runs a current account deficit because it spends more than it produces. Why does it do that? We have a big credit card in the United States. It's called the national government. The US government spends about $2 trillion a year more than it takes in revenues. What it's doing is making transfers to the American people and to American businesses. It doesn't tax Americans for those transfers because, here's another little fact, because the congressmen that vote on the budget got into office by being paid for their campaigns by rich people who don't like taxes. So the political system says spend, but don't tax us. So we run a chronic deficit in the United States. That spending goes out either as transfer payments or goods and services, and that's more than our national income, which is about $30 trillion, and our spending is about $31 trillion. And that's our trade deficit. And for that, Donald Trump blames the world. Okay, I fail him for this if he were my student. He's my president. It's a little weirder because when he did this, in 2 days, the world lost $10 trillion of market capitalization. By the way, where did it go? Did it get transferred from here to here? No, it got destroyed. Why destroyed? Because trade, something also the President of the United States doesn't understand, is mutually beneficial. So if you stop trade, everybody loses. It's not that one side wins, the other side loses. He cannot understand that concept as a guy that traded real estate in New York. So his idea is somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. But what happened when he made this announcement was $10 trillion was wiped out worldwide. It's not that the US went up and they went down. No, everybody went down. Because the whole world system is based on a division of labor, and he's breaking that division of labor into pieces. So then people said, this doesn't make sense. Even the very rich people that gave him the money for him to get into office started saying this doesn't make sense. The hedge fund managers who were his big campaign contributors, Elon Musk, who paid for his election, became prime minister, he said this doesn't make sense. And then the markets said this doesn't make sense. Not only $10 trillion, but as the finance minister said, interest rates started to rise because people began to dump U.S. Treasury debt.
The safest thing in the world, apparently.
So interesting what happened. It's not quite true that he reversed things. First, he left on this 10% tariff, except for one country, for China.
145%
where he
on
raised
products.
the tariff rates. That's because the United States has a deep, neurotic attachment to China. The U.S. political system hates China. Why? Because China's big and successful. And so that the U.S. hates. It's a rival, it's a competitor, and so this is the one thing he left on. Now he's going to mess up everything with this too, because in a trade war between the U.S. and China, China wins. China does not depend on the U.S. market very much. It's about 12% of China's exports. China will do just fine. It's just dumb policy. There's no more, sorry to say it, there's just no more explanation to this than that. It makes no sense. Now, it raises, if I could, just one last point. How can this happen when it makes no sense? And that, people should understand, we are in one-person rule in the United States. Our political system is in a state of collapse. What President Trump did is an emergency decree. Everything he does is an emergency decree. Literally, you can go on to whitehouse.gov and then follow the menu to executive decrees. And there are dozens of them. And each one starts the same way. With the powers invested in me as President of the United States, I hereby declare A, nonsense, B, nonsense, C, nonsense. Because he's king. Those powers are not invested in the President of the United States. They're invested in the Congress. You read Article 1, Section 8 of our Constitution. It says that all duties originate with the Congress. And specifically in the lower house, all legislation has to start in the House of Representatives. But the U.S., starting in 1945 after World War II, became a military state to a large extent. And so it sprinkled in its legislation emergency, emergency, emergency. And Trump doesn't have to prove anything's an emergency, he just has to say something's an emergency. So suddenly the trade deficit became an emergency, and on that basis he issues a one-person rule. Even his aides don't know what he's doing. You raise one final interesting issue, which is that the market recovered about $4 trillion when he reversed. Anyone who knew that 5 minutes before made billions. This is not the cleanest government in the world, I can tell you. I'd be hugely surprised if some people didn't know just a bit ahead of time, starting with members of the U.S. Congress.
I'd like to know how you expect to pay back all of this debt that is going to be layered onto our grandchildren because we're not willing to make our rich part of our society pay their fair share.
So what's interesting about that, and I think it's a fair question, two things are happening here. People in here are upset with me that I voted to cut $2 trillion in spending from the budget.
Hey y'all, happy Saturday. So, today we're going to do a quick history lesson. 1966, California. A man runs for governor. And one of the things he campaigns on is that California's public universities should start charging tuition because they want to get rid of the people there that are undesirable. So they need to charge tuition. A lot of people may not know this, especially millennials and Gen X, even like myself, that have had to deal with student loans and that whole nightmare at some point in their lifetime. This is why. Because Ronald Reagan campaigned on ending in-state free college tuition. Up until 1966, you could basically go to any in-state public university for free. But like I said, the rich 1% white privileged folks, the conservatives, didn't like that. This is the 60s. There's starting to be protests over Vietnam, and they did not want that on their university campuses. So this was the way they thought they could get rid of that. So fast forward to 1980, when Ronald Reagan is elected President of the United States. He is the OG of tax cuts for the 1%. The 1% paid 70% taxes before Ronald Reagan gutted them to 28%. Now Trump has them paying less than someone who makes under $15,000 a year. So up until, like I said, the late 1960s, you could go to college in America for free. That's up until 1966. That's when you start to see many colleges and universities shut their doors for free in-state tuition to state residents. So by 1980, there really is no more free college for anyone. Now, I also want to tie this into the housing market. A lot of y'all may not know this, but I also hold a state real estate license. Well, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even the early 80s, two people working minimum wage jobs could buy and finance and easily get approved for a loan on a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom brick ranch home. That you would never see happen today. And that's because The GOP in the past 40 years has fought so hard against paying minimum wage workers a living wage. What they get paid right now isn't even enough to buy a hamburger. What they get paid for 1 hour's worth of work. The current minimum wage is $7 and some change. And it's not been raised since 2009. When the housing market crashed in 2008, taxpayers bailed them out. When Wall Street crashed, taxpayers bailed them out. When the banks crashed, taxpayers bailed them out. But when taxpayers need help, like, hey, we could send your kids to college for free, or we could pay you a decent wage, the GOP is not on board for that. If it doesn't help multimillionaires and billionaires, they're not for it, and they never will be. They don't support the working class, and they damn sure don't support the poor. And America needs to wake up and realize that. If you want to go back to a time when you didn't have to go broke and work 3 jobs apiece to own a home, or put yourself in debt where you'll be paying off student loans for 30 years just to send your kid to college, then things have to change. And the only way they can change is for us working class and low-income folks to unite against the 1% and take back our country from these MAGA thieves. So, just something for y'all to think about. Y'all have a good one.
We're fucked. And so many of y'all are very misguided, aiming your rage at me for explaining the extent to which we are fucked by using math. Math does not give a shit who you voted for. Math does not give a shit about your feelings. And just for you, Richard, I wrote some more shit on the whiteboard, so let's get into it. We look at 100% of the income that is earned by people in the United States. 66% of that income was earned by the bottom 90% of Americans in 1975. Fast forward 50 years, and that share has dropped to 45%. The incomes of the top 1% of Americans have increased significantly, over 326%, while the incomes for the middle 60% have only gone up 73%. When corporations receive massive tax cuts like they did in 2017, they put those savings into salaries and bonuses for their executives. They do not put those savings into wages for workers. All of these numbers are presented in 2022 dollars for an easy comparison. A new car, buying a home, and a 4-year degree from a public college or university from 72 to 2022, those costs have doubled or more than doubled. But most incomes have not doubled. Add to that the cost of healthcare, food, utilities, etc., and it makes sense why many of us have the feeling like our money doesn't go as far as it used to. And that feeling is reflected here in the numbers. It's clear that many of y'all are vehemently defending this policy because you are irrationally obsessed with Donald Trump. And you think that going after people like me is going to make him love you more. But I think others of you are defending this policy because you are still clinging to the hope that you could actually be part of the 1% one day. But the reality is you won't be. I won't be. And it's not because we don't work hard. It's not because we're not deserving. It's because the deck is stacked against us. And it becomes more and more stacked against us with each subsequent administration that passes tax policies like this. But if you keep thinking that hard work is the only thing that separates you between this and this, then you will keep working harder and you will keep making rich people richer. And those rich folks thank you for your hard work, and they thank you for your defense of these kind of tax policies that they know damn well will benefit them and not you.